What's up YouTube, Network Whiz Kid here, and today we're going to go through an article that I wrote and do a lab on configuring remote access VPNs on Cisco Firepower FTD devices. Now I apologize in advance for the background noise if you can hear any. I have one of my servers running at full capacity today. I've got a lot of things running in the background, so that's the sound that you may be able to hear. Now, for those that follow my articles, last month or so I published a post on how to configure remote access VPNs on Cisco Firepower devices. This is available on my website, networkwizkid.com/blogs. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through this article to give you a video demonstration of how you can actually do this. We're going to skip the certificate signing part because the lab that I have set up is not really required to have the certificate part, but if you was wanting to do the full setup with the CSRs, generating the CSRs and Firepower devices, then you can do so by following my blog post from start to finish. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off with creating the objects for Radius server, etc., and then we'll configure the remote access VPN and we will also test that. So this is the lab that I have set up at the moment. We have ICE 2.6 running, which is going to be used to authenticate our VPN user. We have Server 2019, which is going to be used by ICE to query that user. And then we also have the remote user here that will be remote access VPNing into this fictitious network down here. And once we've established that remote access VPN, we'll test connectivity by pinging the site computer here. The ASA HA setup and the CSR isn't really relevant. It's just part of a lab that I have set up. So do not take too much note of those. So what we'll do is we'll start by taking a look at the topology in even G as well. So as I say, I don't mind the CSR and this connection. This goes out to my virtual environment here. So we're going to start by configuring the FMC so that the objects are in place for our remote access VPN. So we'll start by going to Objects, Object Management. And what we're going to do first is we're going to add the Radius server group. So we need to find Radius server group, which is here. And we don't have any Radius server group, so we're just going to press add Radius server group. And then we'll give it a name, so we'll call it ICE 2.6, sticking with the same post that I wrote. We'll leave the default counting mode and retry interval. We'll enable authorize only as well as interim accounting updates. We'll leave that as 24 hours, and we'll also enable dynamic authorization for COAs. And what we need to do is we need to add the IP address of the Radius server. So in this demonstration we only have one Radius server, so we'll just go ahead and we'll add that 192.168.100.2. We'll stick with the default authentication and accounting ports. Routing key, we'll give it a key which needs to also match with the key in ICE under your NADs. And we'll just go ahead and we'll save that. Sorry, what was that there? And just because we're using dynamic authorization, we do need to specify an interface or a source zone. So I'm going to specify the outside source zone that's already created. We will need to double check and make sure that the outside interface is assigned to that zone. So we'll just go ahead and we'll press save on that, and now that server's been added to our ICE 2.6 group. So we'll go ahead and press save again. And what I'll do quickly is I'll just head over to the devices and just make sure that our outside interface is in that security zone. So click on the outside one there. We can see that it's not in no security zone, so we'll just assign that to the outside security zone and press OK, and then we'll go ahead and we'll save that as well. So what we need to do now is go back to objects management, and we need to configure now a VPN address pool for our VPN users so that they're assigned an IP address once they're connected. So we need to find address pools, which should be near the top here. So we'll just click on address pools and IPv4 pools because we're using IPv4, and we're going to add an address pool. So we'll give it a name. We'll call this one VPN pool, and we'll give it a range. So we'll say 172.16.255.0 172 sorry, we'll give it 1, and then we'll do 172.16.255.254 for instance. Mask, we'll give it a /24. We'll leave the description, and we'll just go ahead and press save. So that's our VPN pool now created. Now what we need to do is, before you can configure or finish configuring VPN or remote access VPNs, we need to add a AnyConnect file for our remote access users. So for this demonstration we have a outside Windows client, so we'll add a Windows image to our appliance. So under VPN we've got AnyConnect file here, so if we just go ahead and we click on that, and what we can do here is we can add the AnyConnect file. So we'll just give it a name. We'll call it Windows AnyConnect. So I've added the Windows AnyConnect image. I'm just going to remove that white space there. Let's just remove that. And then once we're done with that, we can just go ahead and press save image. And once that's done, you'll be able to see the AnyConnect image there, and you can also edit it and download it, etc. So now that that's done, we now can go and proceed to configure the remote access VPN. So what we'll do is we'll go to devices, VPN, and then remote access, and then we're going to add a new configuration. So what we're going to do is we'll start off by giving it a name. So we'll just call it Remote Access VPN, and we're going to use SSL or TLS. We're not going to use IPSec v2 for this demonstration. We'll just use SSL, and we're going to add our FTD device in terms of where that VPN headed is going to be. And I didn't call it out at the start, but if you are following along, just make sure that you have the required AnyConnect license applied in order to make use of remote access VPNs. So once we press next, we get to the connection profiles. Now we're going to leave the connection profile name as it is. Our authentication method in this case is going to be ICE because we're authenticating against ICE. So we'll select our authentication server, and that's the objects that we created earlier, so ICE 2.6, and that's for authentication, authorization and accounting. What we're going to do is we're going to, so for client addresses, we're going to use pools. So if we press the edit button or the little pencil button, we should be able to add those pools for IPv4. And for this demonstration, we're going to use the default group policy, which we can edit later on if we need to. So as I said before, you can't proceed with the remote access VPN configuration unless you have an AnyConnect client image already uploaded. So we have got one as we did in the last step. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to select that one to be used, and then we're going to press next. So on the access and certificate section, so part 4, we're going to enable this on the outside security zone, and we can leave DTLS on for that member interface. Certificate, we can use our self-signed, so we haven't got none there. So as I said at the start of the video, although my article runs through how to configure and sign certificates for this solution, I won't be covering that in this video. We'll just use a self-signed certificate. So we just select self-signed, give it a name, so we'll call it remote access self-signed cert, for instance. Yeah, we'll leave that as that. We'll leave the key size, and we'll leave revocation check. So we'll just go ahead and we'll save that. Oh, we've got to give it a common name. Let's just call it remote access VPN cert, and then we'll save that. So now we'll use the self-signed certificate. And what we're going to do is we're going to select this bottom option. So this is to bypass access control policies for decrypted traffic. Now the reason we're selecting this is because ICE is going to push down whatever policy is permitted for a user connecting via VPN. So we don't need to, the user doesn't need to be subject to access control policy on the device itself. So once we're done with that, we press next, and then we can take a look at all the configurations that we've just been through and that we've configured to verify. And there's some additional tasks on the right hand side here that may be relevant to yourself. Again, some of these are actually covered in my article, so please take a look at that as well. So we're just going to press finish for now, and that should save that configuration. And now you can see that we've got the remote access VPN that we've just configured. So we're just going to edit that so we can take a look at the group policy. So if we just click on edit group policy there, using the default group policy, so we can see that we have SSL or TLS and IPSec IPv2 selected for the tunnel protocol. We'll just deselect IPv2 because we're only going to be using TLS for this demonstration. Our address pool is going to be the same that we selected before, so VPN pool. You can add a banner if you want. We won't do that in this demonstration. DNS, we can specify DNS. So what we can do is we'll give a DNS entry, so Google DNS, and we'll just give it 8.8.8.8. So we've got a DNS entry, and then on to split tunneling. Depending on your policy or your company's requirements, you may tunnel all traffic, or you may decide just to tunnel specific traffic to once you connect via the remote access VPN. So what we're going to do is we'll tunnel specific networks below, and then we'll specify these networks here. So we're just essentially doing a split tunnel. We'll leave IPv6 because we're not doing that, and then we'll just add our networks in here. Give it a name as split tunnel, and then for our access list we're going to add the relevant inside network, so as per the topology. So if we just go back to that there, so this network here where the site computer is located is the 200.0/24 network, so we'll add that so that we're only tunneling for that specific network. All other traffic won't be tunneled. So we'll save that. That's our split tunnel policy sorted. In terms of DNS requests, we'll send it as per the split tunnel policy as well, so that doesn't really matter. AnyConnect client profiles, we'll leave that, it's not relevant for this demonstration. We will leave the default settings for the SSL settings, and we can also leave the settings in the connection settings here. Just to show you advanced, we've got traffic filter settings that we can set, and we also have session settings that we can set as well. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and save those now, and then we'll save that again, and that's that change applied. So just before we push the policy, we'll just verify the access interface settings. So we can see that we've got the web access port number as 443 and DTLS the same as well. We're using the self-signed certificate that we provided, and IKV2 settings are not applicable in this demonstration. And as we said before, we're going to bypass the access control policies on here because we're going to push down some downloadable access lists from ICE. Furthermore, we'll just click on the advanced tab and see what we've got there. And on here you can see that we've just got the AnyConnect client images part. We have address assignment of policies. These are all default settings here. We can probably change that from using DHCP because we're not using that. And we can also take these off because we're not using IPv6. You've got certificate maps which are not relevant for the demonstration, and then you've got group policies, one of which we just modified, and you can also add new group policies here. And then last of all, you've got the IPSec policy settings as well. So we'll leave all those and we'll click save for the changes that we've made. And now we should be ready to deploy to our FTD device. So we'll go to deploy, select the FTD, and you can expand to see what's going to be applied, and then you can proceed with the deployment. So once this is deployed, what we'll do is we'll test with our remote computer and see if we can establish that VPN connection. So on our remote host now, we'll connect to the outside interface of the FTD, and we should get the prompt. So if we just do 192.168.10.2 2. And you can see there now that we've got the we've got to the head end of the VPN. So we've only got one group, that's the group that we configured, and we're going to enter the credentials that are configured in ICE. So once we log in, we should get the AnyConnect installation page for this Windows machine. And there we go. So the installer is detecting the operating system right now and the CPU, and then it should let us download the AnyConnect mobility client for Windows. This is the image that we uploaded to the FMC when we was configuring the initial remote access VPN setup. So you can see there now we've got the option to download for Windows, so we'll just go ahead there and download that. So we'll proceed through the initial setup for the AnyConnect VPN mobility client on the remote machine. And once that's finished, we just press finish. Now our AnyConnect VPN mobility client should now be installed. We should now be able to open that in a moment. So we have our mobility client here at the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to now connect to our head end. So 192.168.10.2 in my case. It's contacted an IP address, and we should be prompt to, well, before we actually prompt with username and password, we get this message here, and it's saying that the server is untrusted, and this is because we're using a self-signed certificate. So if you press keep me safe, it's going to take you off this and you won't be able to connect. However, for testing purposes, and if you know what you're connecting to, then just proceed with change settings. And what we want to do is we want to untick this box here, which is block connections to untrusted servers. So once we've done that, we'll come off that and then we'll try and connect again. We should now be able to still proceed with connecting. So as you see now, it's slightly different. We can connect now, so we'll connect anywhere. And now you can see we are asked to enter username and password. So I'll just enter my credentials that are authenticated against AD. Establish a VPN connection, and it's going to ask us if we really want to connect. We're going to connect that anyway. So it's downloading a update now. Everything seems well. And then once we've connected, we'll verify that on ICE as well. And we'll take a look at the settings just to make sure that they've been applied successfully. Now we've received this error when connecting. So VPN establishment capability for a remote user is disabled. A VPN connection will not be established. So if we press OK on that, it's not going to let us connect, and it'll just stop the process there. And the reason that's being shown is because by default the AnyConnect will only allow local users to connect to the VPN. So for us to be able to change that, we need to head over to the not that one. We need to head over to Firepower. And we need to add a VPN profile that has the ability to allow remote access users to connect. So we'll just do that now. So we'll go across to group policy. And under AnyConnect we can select a client profile, so we'll add a client profile. So we'll just call this default VPN, and I already have a client profile created to allow this, so I will head over to in fact it's not on there, it's on my desktop I believe. So if I just go to desktop, and then I've got a VPN image here, or a VPN XML file. We'll just save that, and then we'll select that to be the client profile and press save again. And just for reference, if you've got the AnyConnect profile editor, the setting you are looking to change is here. So Windows VPN establishment, allow remote users to connect. So that's one of the profiles I've got there. So we'll just go ahead and save that, and we'll deploy that change, and then we'll try and connect again to the VPN. And I just thought it'd be worth pointing that out, just for those that are setting up the remote access VPNs for the first time and they run into that particular issue. That's pretty much how you resolve it. So we'll see that in a moment once this policy is pushed. So with that policy pushed now, we'll attempt to connect again. Again, proceed to connect, and then if I just enter my credentials, we can connect. It's performing any required updates, establishing a VPN, and it seems to have established. So you can see they're now connected at 192.168.10.2. So if we, before we take a look at the AnyConnect settings, let's just take a look at ICE. So we can see here that we have connected, and ICE has pushed down some policy. So we can see there's all types of information here, but our main focus is remote access VPN. So we've established that VPN now. So if we just open this up, click on settings, and let's take a look. So we can see that we've got split tunnel included. We can see that we're connected. We can see the duration. We can see the IP address that we've been given there, and we can see the server that we're connected to. So in our case, that's the head end IP address, and we can see all sorts of other information. We can see secured route. So because we're using split tunnel, we have the secured route to the internal PC that we wanted to access, or the internal network, and we've also got the secured route for Google DNS. So if we try and now ping the inside PC, we may be successful. I can't remember what ICE policy I actually have pushed to be fair, but we can take a look at that. 200.10, and we can see there that we can ping that host on the inside of that network now, which is good. And then you've just got session history or message history here. So that is essentially how you set up remote access VPN. Let's take a look at our let's go to overview. So what we need to do is we need to go to dashboard, access control user statistics, and we should be able to see the VPN connection. So we click on the VPN tab. We can see here now we've got an active VPN session. We can see the username, we can see the VPN agent that's being used, and we can see discovered identities, which is myself here, discovered via LDAP. So you can see information on here as well in regards to connected remote access VPN users. So that's pretty much it with this video. I hope that you have found that useful if you are looking to set up remote access VPN on firepower devices. I do know at this current time of doing this video, the COVID-19 is responsible for a lot of people working at home. So if you are a company with firepower but not necessarily the AnyConnect remote access VPN solution, and this, I hope this video is helpful for you. Also check out my article which has more details around generating certificates. If you got any questions, feel free to reach out to me on YouTube or Twitter, or even on my website networkwizkid.com. Again, I hope you found this useful, and if you have, please subscribe and share. Thank you for watching.